I'm not using slides, as I'm not a technological person, as you can see it. So let me start with a story then, since we start with the stories. Since I'm working with kids, I should start with stories anyway. Well, that's not going to be a good story, but we'll see. We gathered in a room with 10 boys. They were like 11, 12 years old, with 3 psychiatrists with us. Actually, they were children's psychiatrists or pediatrics. And 4 students, actually, just there to discover what is going on with the Syrians in Hatay, in the camp. Psychiatrists were asking questions to kids. How is life going? What do you want to be? What is your future is like? They were trying to understand their conception. And then we noticed that in their arms, there were the cuttings. They were cutting themselves. So there were 10 boys. We were talking. Of course, we didn't say anything to them. We were shocked. It stuck with me. But then we noticed that one kid had the red marks on his hand. He was just imitating them because he couldn't cut himself. But he was sharing the trauma that they were facing. Right? Even though he couldn't cut himself, he was trying to connect with them. He was trying to bond with them. So that struck me, and as with my friends. That's how we decided that we should, even though you have the trauma or the troubling experience whatsoever, you need connections to get over it. You need connections to heal. So we decided that if we connect children, we can change it. We can make it smoother adoption for children. We can make it integration smoother for them, and the healing process is much, much better. So we initiated our initiative in Hatay, in the camp. 4 of us, students, undergrad. Well, I was an undergrad at that time, but now I'm a grad student now. And none of us were psychiatrists. None of us were, like, one of us is actually studying law. I'm studying politics. We're all different categories, but we thought that the connection, if we can make that, it doesn't matter which ground that we're working, we can make a difference in their lives. We can touch their lives. So then we got back to Istanbul. Of course, as you know, you may not know, actually, the number is so high that every day it surprises me, actually. Now, Turkey has 4 million Syrian refugees. Actually, those are the recorded ones, so it's probably more than that. And 49%, that means half of them, are under the age of 18. And the worst part is 400,000 of them has no access to education. So they're isolated, not integrated to society, and they also have the trauma that even though they haven't witnessed this war, they know that their families, their friends, getting through the war. We have so many kids, hasn't seen the trauma, hasn't seen anyone dying in front of them, showing the symptoms. Now, since we've been working with the trauma, we've been training about the trauma, that's why now we can understand the symptoms. But showing the symptoms that we have the drawings, so we start with the drawings. Kids, before they meet, well, let me begin with what we do, so you can understand how we identify the differences between those Turks and Syrian kids. Before they meet, we bring them together. That was our plan. We take 11 years old kids from 5th elementary school, from Syrian kids, from Syrian school, and from Turkish school. So 40 Turkish kids, 40 Syrian kids comes together. We group them, small groups, so they can integrate more. They can, socialize more. Even numbers, of course. Non-Turks are more, non-Syrians are more, even numbers. We pair them in the groups. Every play is based on the trust. Every play is like you guys had for us icebreakers. We have that kind of icebreakers too, but those are chosen from psychiatrists so that we can create a bond between those kids. We have the artworks that they do that's also based on the unification, that even though we have the differences, we have the different languages, we are one. So they come together, they try to learn, even though they cannot communicate, they try to communicate. You should see the scenes. If you look up, you'll see the scenes. They say, like, this is the brush, this is the brush, even though he says in Turkish. The kid doesn't understand, and he looks at him, and he smiles and gets the brush. You should see the communications they try to create. One scene that I remember, actually, we all struck with that scene, actually, too. With one Turkish girl, I don't know what's in English, but, you know, making her friend's hair, Syrian friends' hair, even though they don't speak the same language, they made the connections. So those kids has no bias toward each other if we don't have the bias teaching to them, if we don't plant them, if we don't teach them to hate. So that's why we start with kids, changing their mentality, changing their idea towards Syrian kids. And for Syrian kids too, as we talk at the camps, we saw that none of them plans to stay. Even though those are, I talked to one kid who was 8 years old, Ömer. Ömer, we were asking questions to Ömer, oh, what are you gonna do? Do you want to come to Istanbul so you can see me? He says, no. Aren't you going to stay? And you know, there are nice schools in Istanbul. He says, no. I said, what are you going to do? He says, I'm gonna go back to Syria. He has been in the camps for 4 years. That means he was 4 years old when he comes to the camp. He was 4 years old, still thinks that he's going to go back. No belonging to Turkey. Because no friendship, no connections. That's why our plan is to make them connected. Get into society, get integrated, make friends. So if you make friends, it's easier to stay in one place. We all travel, we know that, how the connection is important for us. So we gather the kids together, we play for 2 days. End of the day, we have one canvas art workshop that one Turkish kid, one Syrian kid comes together, and they have to come up with one artwork, putting aside their differences, cultures, language. They have to come up with one artwork, and that's going to be theirs, and it builds for them self-confidence. And we do the exhibition, they do the opening for themselves, and then they see that strangers comes to them appreciating their artwork. It's such a value that I cannot imagine going through that. You should see their eyes when they see their canvases on the wall, comes together and they talk about, even though they don't speak the same languages. So the connection is amazing. So even though we know we can work at the time like 100 kids, maybe 120, but at least we can do something. I cannot make the sun rise, I cannot make the rain, but I can plant the seeds. Thank you.